Nobody knew he was dead. And and you were on a business trip, actually, even in the state of Minnesota when that happened. And I was at home with the children. And one night, in the middle of the night, I feel the presence in my bedroom, and I open my eyes and I see pretty much my brother-in-law standing right next to me, looking at me and not saying a single word. And I was very shocked, and I was just coming out of sleep time, so I was not even conscious fully of what was going on. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and I was trying to talk, to communicate with him, and he didn't say a word. He was just staring at me. And within about a minute or so, he disappeared into thin air. And I was left completely baffled, wondering what the hell just happened. And I tried to go back to bed after that and trying to, okay, maybe I was dreaming. It was not something significant. And he came back from the trip the next day, and within, I think the day
It was
after
like
that,
a few days later.
yeah, a few days later, we heard that her brother,
They found his
body
Yeah.
in his home. And when we tried to correlate the time of death, it coincided with when I had the vision of him, or the visit, pretty much of his ghost or his spirit, whichever way people want to call that, visiting me that night. But something happened to me after that visit. I believe that his appearance to me, and I think there was a purpose to all of this. It was a message to tell me that something important was going to happen to me, and my life would be different going forward. Because after that, I started seeing more of ghosts appearing and visiting me at night. And remember, that was the pandemic, and people were dying left and right all over the world. And here in California, with the huge population that we have, there was a lot of people dying. And I was hearing throughout the day or through the night, I was hearing the tears and the crying and the pain and the suffering of those people, not necessarily knowing any of them. And I was really losing my mind. I was like, what is happening to me? I cannot live that way. It's just impossible for me to function with all these spirits coming into my life and interrupting everything that I'm doing. And not long after that, then she lost her mother. Another, a tragic event. Within a month of a little bit more than a month of losing her brother, her mother also died. So that put my beloved here into more grief, more sadness, more depression, and myself feeling even more now the pain of the dead and the people who were dying all over. We were both like in a place of total chaos in our lives, not knowing what to do of anything and understanding how to move forward. And that's when we started looking at each other and got at least a little bit of advice from some people who were a little bit more, astute and mature in the spirit realm and things of that nature.
Yeah, Franco was one of them. We actually talked to Franco. Romero
Yeah, you saw
at that
Franco. I
time.
had him 2-3 times.
Yeah.
I had him on my show. Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank would come into our lives around that time, and he was telling us, guys, guess what? There is an awakening that's happening, and it's happening differently for myself and for Magdalena, but definitely it's happening. And we have to go deeper. We have to start searching within ourselves the true meaning of this life, the true nature of this life, because it's time for us to wake up. That was kind of the words I really like to use. He said, it's time for you guys to wake up.
And remember who you truly are.
And remember who you truly are, yeah.
And I'd like to throw in something. Our houses had been haunted a few different times throughout our whole marriage. We never really put 2 and 2 together until my brother's, ghost came to visit him, and then all those other dead people. There's times where the dead would actually reenact their death in his body, and he would, that was very traumatic.
Very traumatic.
And through that process, we started working with plant medicine and other spiritual teachers and started realizing, like, oh my gosh, he has a gift, and a lot of his channeling abilities, everything started coming online really, really fast, which was pretty traumatic. But then it all led back to, we discovered the NDE he had when he was in his womb.
So if you remember, I was mentioning those deities that somehow had made an agreement with my grandfather. So that same year, when I started having all of these weird things, I was feeling that there was a presence around. There was something that was calling me. I would hear the drumming of some African tribe drumming at night, and I would hear singing, and I was like, my goodness, I'm hearing the songs and the drummings of some of my tribes. What's that? What is all that about? And to go a little bit faster, when the deities actually came right back into my consciousness after we had done together as a couple a plant medicine journey. It was part of one of the modalities that we were trying to experiment with to understand how to do our awakening and how to go deeper within. And the first one that we did as a couple, um, and we use psilocybin mostly with some other psychedelics in a very safe environment. We had experts, a couple of medicine people who've done that for decades, who came to our home and helped us go through that experience. And it's that first journey. It was my very first time doing psychedelic. The goddesses, the deities I'm talking about, showed up. They came to me and they said, now you can now see us and we can have a conversation. And they started explaining to me that somehow it was time for me to pick up the torch from the work that my grandfather used to do with them, that they've been working together for generations. And it was in my family tradition for having this kind of work with those deities. And they said they put me on a path, or shamanic path of transformation. And they started with a beautiful set of rituals that they gave me. They gave me instructions on some of the first things that I was supposed to do. And they also they told me that my life is going to be different. It's no longer going to be what I used to know until that time, that new things, new knowledge, new abilities will come to me as a result of this awakening. And now I was now aware of their presences, and I started building relationships, having rituals and things of that nature with them. And I'm still doing it as of today.
Okay, you mentioned that during the pandemic, you saw the souls departing. Can you describe that? How did you see that visually?
So it was more it was all kinds of modalities. There were the visuals is one of them, where like the example of my brother-in-law appearance, where there was a full-blown appearance of it. Then there are the the hearing was another one where I would hear the voices, I would hear the scream and the pain and the suffering and the calling for help. Other times it would be more a reaction within my body where I would feel a presence, almost like you're walking through something that's denser than normal air, and my whole body will feel like there is something that just I ran into. So there wouldn't be like a visual appearance, but there will be a very profound sensation in my body that there's a presence. At times, it would be them touching me. I will feel a hand that would be touching my arm or my head or my back, like somebody's touching me. I look around and I may not see. And sometimes it's a combination of all of these working together. One of the most disturbing one, when she said that I was reenacting, sometimes some of them reenacted their death. That one happened through a dream time. So I was sleeping. We were on a vacationing. We took a small weekend vacation getaway to the beach, uh, not far from a military base somewhere here. And in the middle of the night, during my dream time, I see myself inside one of those amphibian vehicles, or those military vehicles that can go on the road and on water. I see myself there inside, and I look around like I was there, and I see soldiers surrounding me, screaming, yelling, and there's water coming inside the vehicle. So they were inside the vehicle, and there was water, seawater coming in, and they were yelling and screaming, and it was drowning in the ocean. And I felt their pain. I felt their death. In that moment, I was like dying alongside with them, feeling all the things that they were feeling. And I woke up from that, like when it got to too much to bear, it pulled me out of my sleep, and I had my heart was racing. I mean, it was just as if I had died with them. This was kind of the most extreme experience that I had with contact with the departed and dead people. And surely enough, when we looked at the news and figured out what was going on, not long before that, I think a few months before that, there was actually an amphibian vehicle off that coast that where we stood and spent the night that actually drowned with I think 10 or 11 Marines who got trapped, and they were all young, also precisely the same age that I saw in my dream, and they were all young, and they pretty much drowned in their vehicle on the military exercise thing that they were doing. There was an accident, and they drowned, and they all died. So when that one happened, that actually gave us even a bigger red flag. Like, okay, this I could have had a heart attack in my sleep, and I could have died from that experience. And we needed really help. I needed to find people who understood how to deal with this kind of stuff to train me and show me how to move forward.
So you mentioned that these people, these departing souls, they were screaming in horror.
Mhm.
That's a little
Yes.
bit different from what I heard from most near-death experiencers. Most near-death experiencers, they experience heaven and bliss. And these people, these souls that were departing, I'm sorry, I'm laughing here. I'm just, they
Yeah.
were all in horror. Were they going to hell? What was happening over there? All of them?
Yeah. I need to explain a little more. So that I didn't consider that one the NDE. That was more like some of the my awakening to the spirit realms and my awareness of it. It was one form of being able to detect any kind of spiritual disturbances around me in an area, a place, and things of that nature. The NDE, which is close to what you're describing, happened to me a little bit after that. So when I had been on that journey of starting my training, actually finding people who understand how to deal with ghosts and how to help ghosts transition into the light. I got a training for about a 1 year long training from a woman who does that. She's really good at it. She's what we call a rescue medium or a ghost whisperer, and she helps souls who have died but haven't crossed into the light actually do the crossings. They could be like lost souls. So she trained me, and it was during the time that she was training me that something incredible happened to me, and that's when the most recent NDE happened. It was a weekend. My beloved and I, we were still living in Southern California, and one morning I was in my bedroom. She was not there, and I was doing some of the rituals because I was training. I'm like, I was taking things really seriously because I'm like, if I don't do that, I may die one day. So I was really serious and very devoted on doing all my practices and training. So I was doing a meditation that morning, and I felt another presence, a very powerful presence in the bedroom. And so I knew that, it could be another ghost again that's approaching. So let's go through some of the things that I've been trained to do by asking questions. So I started talking to that entity. It was really like an energy presence. I didn't have an apparition, but it was an energetic field present that was so intense. So I asked, okay, who are you? Are you a ghost? And what I heard back was, no, I am not a ghost. I am a goddess. So I'm like, oh, is it one of my goddesses, right? Because I have two deities that work with me. So I asked, is it one form of you? Sometimes you present yourself like that. She says, no, I am none of these two. I'm a different one. So I got curious. I'm like, okay, so who are you? So throughout the discussion that we had, I discovered she revealed herself to me as Ashira. That's her name, Ashira. She, I had never heard of goddess Ashira before, and she said, just know that I'm gonna become one of your guides. Alongside the other ones that you already know about by now, I'm gonna be a new one, and I would like you to know about that, and we're gonna do some work together. So, and this was, I could hear a voice, talking to me, and the presence was overwhelming. It was like being in the presence of, I don't know, like an electrically charged room, like with all kinds of electrostatic going on. And I said, what am I supposed to do? And she said, it's very simple. I want you to go to the ocean this weekend, and something special is going to happen there. But just go there, and then we'll pick up when you go there. And then she went away. I explained to my beloved here what just had happened to me, and I said, okay, this is another one of those weird things again, and I'm not sure what to expect. And I would like us to do what she asked us to do and go to the ocean. So the next day, because we have kids, so we cannot just go and to the ocean. We had to organize something. We took the children and to say, hey, let's go have a fun time in the ocean. It's not too far. It was like 25 minutes from our home. We got to the ocean, and we've been to that beach many times before. That particular day, when we got to that ocean beach, the tide was incredibly low. I had never seen the water being so far off into the ocean. So the beach itself, size had like multiplied by 10. There was so much more space on the beach, and I was looking at my beloved. I'm like, have you ever seen the ocean looking like this before? And she said, no, that's the first time. And myself, we were like, wow, okay, so let's keep walking and see if we can get to the waves. And we walk and we walk and we walk into the water and to hit the waves. And at that time, the water was so shallow that when we were standing on the beach, and somebody on the shore was looking at us, like the kids, for example, were playing somewhere in the back. It felt like we were walking on water. Because the water was so shallow but so far out. And I remembered something that I heard about the goddess that I'd made contact the day before, was that she's also known as she who walks on water. That was one of her description. So it came to my recollection, and I told my beloved here, I said, hey, it's like we're doing what the goddess says. We are walking on water. Not really, but it looks exactly as if we were. And that was that. For me, I said, okay, we did what the goddess asked. Let's have the kids have fun and let's go back home. That night is when the NDE happened to me. We went to bed, had a normal, experience of how bedtime routine. We go to sleep. In the middle of the night, I hear the goddess again, her voice, and I feel myself leaving my body, like completely leaving my body behind, being sucked in some kind of vortex. I don't know how to explain that. And on the other, I hear the voice of the goddess calling me on the other side. I get to the end of the vortex and she's standing there. Now I have a full visual appearance of her nature. So beautiful, almost looks like a queen or something, all full of light, like gorgeous looking. And she says, welcome to the afterlife. And I kind of freaked out for a moment. I'm like, this is the afterlife? And she says, yes, you just died. And I'm here to welcome you into the afterlife. As soon as she says those words, there was this feeling of intense bliss that I could not describe. It was like, I mean, there are no words to describe it. It was so much love, so much connectivity, feeling that I belonged, and everything around me was normal, natural. It's like coming back to my natural state that for some other reason I was remembering that that's my natural state. And I felt so much joy and happiness and peace. And the goddess was standing right there, and then she was kind of showing me some kind of realm where there were other entities floating around, like light entities moving around, and every single one of them was sending these beautiful vibes of love. It was nothing that was scary in nature. Me being surprised by it, that's the only thing. But anything that I was receiving was inviting me to stay. And I was really tempted to stay. And but the goddess was standing there still waiting for me. Apparently she had a plan. And I look at her and I'm like, but wait, if I stay here, it means I'm already dead. And that's it. My family, they're going to find me dead in the morning. And she says, yes, that's my choice. I could decide to stay. And then she says, but for you, I'm gonna give you a choice. You could choose to stay here with me and enjoy all of this, or you could go back into your body, but then you would have experienced what the afterlife is, and you're going to have to help people understand that and understand it for yourself, remember it, and then help people understand what happens after we die. I stood there for a moment, and the only thing that came to mind was my wife. I saw her, I saw my kids, and I was like, "Oh, please, I called Divine Mother. I said, please, Divine Mother, I really love my family so much, and I think they need to know this. I have to go back. I have to explain to them, at least my beloved here, what just happened. And I would like to have an opportunity, a chance to go back into my body and continue this work with you. If you're still willing to work with me." And she says, "Oh, absolutely. I will continue to be, your guide. But yeah, the decision is yours, and whatever you choose, I will grant it." And I said, "Please send me back to my body." And when I said that, she did whatever goddesses do. I just got sucked into that tunnel again of light and found myself like falling into my body. And as soon as I fell into my body, I had the biggest gasp of air that I have ever had in my life. Like, something of that nature, much longer than that. And I realized that I had resumed breathing again. And my beloved, who's still sleeping next to me, she didn't hear any of that. She was probably sleeping really deep. And I stood on the bed and I looked and I stood just like, I'm like, wow, that just happened to me. That just happened to me. And of course, when we woke up, I told her the story, and that again took us deeper into our path of awakening.
Yeah.
Because now I had an experience of the afterlife myself.
Yeah, it was pretty scary for us.
Yeah, but what happened, if I may ask you? Why you died? You had a heart attack? What happened?
I know that it could be a condition because that's how my father died. By the way, I told you that both our fathers died. My father died in his sleep. He went. My mom told me I was not there when it happened. He died in the Ivory Coast in West Africa while I was living still in the United States. I'm still living here. And he was went to bed and in his sleep he just died. There was no medical condition of any kind that he was suffering from that they knew of. It was just the way he left.
Mhm.
So maybe in my family bloodline, that's how we die. We just go to bed and then whoop, we go. So,
Well, I don't know. That might be a good karma to die in your sleep. You just one day you are looking at the world, another day you're looking at heaven.
that's exactly what have happened to me if
No
I had made a
suffering.
different choice. No, no suffering.
All right, now that's happened like 4 years ago. You said
2 years ago, about two and
two
a
years
half years
ago.
ago.
So how this experience changed you? What did you acquire any special abilities after this? What happened with you after this?
Oh, brother. Yes, 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 yes. So after this one, a lot of my senses that I was using to detect the presence of the spirits and the ghosts got moved to another level. I would easily feel I could even feel they're coming next to me, and I will like, oh, one of them is approaching now. So I had and I could have conversations with them in my head. I will have a conversation like I'm talking to you now, as clear as day. I hear them, they hear me, and there is like pure conversation. Um, I started also becoming more responsible for helping families who had lost. So Magdalena and myself, we started saying, okay, the goddess said you have to use this to help. So we started approaching people who had lost somebody and say, hey, do you want to reconnect with a loved one or maybe have some kind of closure? And we found a few people in the beginning, some of them being even our own friends who had committed suicide. And we had sessions where I would pretty much go into the spirit realm, and that was amazing. I realized that after that, one of the big things that happened is that I could go find a soul, even if they didn't come to me themselves. I could go find them in the spirit realm and introduce myself to them and say, "Hey, you have your daughter or your son here with me on Earth. They would like to talk to you. Would you be willing to have some time with us and have a conversation? And I will be kind of a mediator of the conversation between you and one of your relatives who's still alive." So I had the ability now to do that. I could go to the, and it didn't matter if they were in limbo, like had not crossed yet into the light, and even if they were in the light, like they had ascended to that level of higher consciousness, I would still be able to find them there and have an invitation and say, you have one of your loved relatives here would like to have a conversation with you. Would you please make yourself available so we can have a conversation? And we did that many times, and and it was amazing. The responsiveness that they had when I was making the invitation, they never felt threatened. The majority of them, whenever I was approaching them, and the accuracy of the information that they were provided to me was confirmed by the relatives who kind of agreed to be part of the session, and that even confirmed to me even deeper that okay, this is really what's going on here. There is definitely a way for the dead and the departed to communicate with the living. And here I am being a channel for these kinds of communications. And it was very clear to me that that's got to be part of my responsibilities now as a shaman.
Yeah, so this time you are helping people connect with the departed ones.
Yes.
And how do you find them? how do you find those souls? You said that you go into the afterlife, you find them in the limbo or somewhere. How do you recognize them? How do you find them?
Yes, it's beautiful, and I think somehow my NDE allowed me to have that memory of the crossing of the tunnel. So I became aware of the two realms. I think globally there are two realms. The angelic one is where when you cross into the light, you're with the angels, the archangels, and all the ascended masters, Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, and the Krishnas, and they're all over there in the angelic realms. And then you have the what I call limbo. It's the in between realm where the souls who haven't fully crossed into the light find themselves. So I was able to I would always start with the limbo because it's a closer vibration. As far as the energetic light level, I think it's like a frequency, if you want. It's a little bit closer to this world that we live in. The angelic one is overwhelming. When you go into the angelic realms, like everything is buzzing. My back, my blood pressure even goes up, and I'm like, yep, I'm in the realm of the angels now. So I was able to raise my vibration to match the realm that I was trying to visit. So that's something that came naturally after that NDE. So once I find my vibration, let's say I'm going through limbo, because they're the ones who are more problematic and more challenging. Let's say I'm going to limbo first, and I just send an energetic invitation to the soul. And I have a name for them. Oh, and I forgot the drawing. That's another big one.
Yeah, we'll talk
I
about
almost forgot about that. One of the tools that was given to me is to sketch them before the session. So before I go into the spirit realm, I will sketch them. I was trained to be an electrical engineer and a computer scientist. I'm not an
All right.
artist. Our house is filled with painting that I've done
Like that one
since
back there.
like
I
this one.
see
There's
that
a
one.
whole bunch of them. That's Mother Kali from India. And there's a whole bunch of paintings now that are in this house that came out of me because I was given that gift. They said, oh, now you're going to be able to paint and deities, departed people to refine your connection with them. So when somebody come to me and says, I want to talk to my mom, I said, do you have a picture of your mom? They'll give me the picture and I will sketch the mother's face. Usually I just focus on the upper body, and as I do that sketching, it actually opens a channel within me to find them in the afterlife, which is a very interesting thing, but it's part of my process. I will always sketch them. And then when I go into the spirit realm, it's almost like it's an amplifier. It allows me to kind of attune myself to their frequency, whichever frequency they emanate when they're there. It's almost like a radio signal. We are on the same signal strength or bandwidth, whatever, and I can see that I go right where they are, whichever place they are. Some of them are still walking places on earth, not knowing that they are dead. And I'll find myself, one of them, I think I remember going to the hills of Mexico. The guy had been killed by the cartel, and his partner, a woman, came to me and asked me to help her have a conversation with him. And when I got into the spirit realm, and I sketched him and all that stuff, I found myself some desert road somewhere in Mexico, desert dry land with hills around me, and the dude was walking down a path on the side of the road. I found him, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" I called his name, and he said yes, and I'm like, "Wow, your beloved sent me to find you because she wants to have a conversation with you." And boom, it's like, oh, okay. And they recognize me. It's like I think when they see me, they may see me with some kind of a light around me or some sort. I'm not gonna say I'm an angel, but something similar to that. So they feel safe. They're not scared by me. And boom, doesn't matter where they are in the world, I will find them that way. And if it's the angelic realm,
Yeah. So this guy was living like a hermit over there in the mountains, walking, and he didn't know that he's dead.
we had he didn't know. He thought he was still alive, and he was trying to go back to the house that he had with her. And he's like, I keep walking down this road, but I cannot make it to the house. What's going on? And I had to tell him, I'm like, I'm sorry to bear the bad news here, but you dead. You've been killed by the cartel. For whatever reason, you found yourself in there. businesses, they terminated you, they killed you, you got assassinated, and now you're in limbo because I can see you're still roaming the earth. You haven't crossed, but before you cross, I would like you to have a conversation with your beloved who's here with me. And if you want to, let's do that, and then I can help you cross into the light afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was such a traumatic experience for him and so sudden that he didn't have time to realize what happened.
exactly. He was just too, and it was a very brutal death, like very traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what is the process of the souls departing? Do they go to the limbo first? Some of them go to the angelic realm right away. What is the classification here? What's happening?
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. Um, the normal process when there are no complications is you go straight. So you have it, you die. So your consciousness or your spirit or soul exits the body, and you have the recollection of what is coming next to you. It's like a very natural thing. Your soul wants to go back into the light because that's where we came all from. So there is this natural pull for you to go into the light, and normally when that there is no doubt within your consciousness, you don't need anybody else. You just go. It's a natural thing. You go back into the light, and you meet some of your ancestors could be there, loved ones, and angels and ascended masters, and whatever happens there is your business. That's the normal process, and it doesn't require anybody living here to assist with that. It's just very natural. Now, where things get tricky is when there is a sudden, unexpected, violent death. um, it breaks that cycle of remembrance because of the energy of the trauma is so intense that it breaks that not that memory that you have to go into the light. So you think that you're still here, but it's very different. You can still see and interact sometimes with the object of this realm, but it's limbo. You're like in this state of uncertainty. You don't really know what's going on. You don't even have a sense of time. It's another one I've discovered. They have no sense of time. Today, they could have been dead for hundreds of years. They wouldn't even know that it's been that long. Time dissolves. They could go anywhere on Earth or some of the other realms too that are not angelic. There are other realms of lower vibration below the angelic one. And you get lost in that. You could spend, from our perspective, a lot of time and not still remembering that you are supposed to go into the light. And to get out of there, either somebody like me who does the work that I do finds you and reminds you of that, or sometimes the angels themselves and the ascended masters, every so often, they do that. They don't have any issues doing that. They will help the soul remember what they're supposed to do, and then they'll find their way into the light. So that's kind of and some decides, some also, the third scenario is in between the two. They still have the memory that they're supposed to go into the lights. They haven't forgotten, but they feel a sense of obligation to take care of the ones that are still living, and they may delay their crossing. So they know, yeah, eventually I'll cross, but let me make sure that my son or my grandson is okay, or my granddaughter is okay. I want to maybe appear to them or give them a sign in their life that's going to help them make sure that they're following their path, or whatever that's supposed to happen to them happen, and they will just delay their crossing until they have the assurance that they're going to be okay, and then naturally they will go and cross over.
Yeah. Or they might have a mission to fulfill like you had. This is why you came back, so you can speak about this.
I think my brother-in-law, I think, did precisely that. I think he knew that he had to cross into the light. I have no doubt that he's in there, but he stopped on his way there to visit me, to start awakening something in me that he knew
Okay.
will be beneficial for me going
Yeah,
forward.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
his sister, yeah.
Makes sense. Now, what are the requirements for a soul to go right to heaven without going and, wandering into the
Boy,
mountains for years?
no, beautiful question. Um, I do believe that it's when you've done the work that you came to do. When I think there is an innate, like a very strong sense within each one of us of the purpose of our lives. which reason why we came to this lifetime. And when we die, knowing that we've done it, and and knowing that we've done it doesn't necessarily mean that we had a beautiful, amazing, fulfilling, joyous, happy life. It's just that everybody has a different mission. Some people, they have to sacrifice themselves. That's the goal. They have to sacrifice themselves to help others, and their life will end that way, with the sacrifice of their own life. And it doesn't necessarily feel like a happy ending, but they've accomplished their mission. When you die that way, your mission is accomplished. You remember it as soon as you die. Oh, I've done what I was supposed to do. You go right back into the light. And some other people will be more gentle, peaceful. I think my father, for example, had a very gentle, peaceful. It had done what he needed to be done for him, and he just crossed right away. So it's a matter of alignment on your purpose, the purpose of your existence. If you die with having met the purpose of your existence, the transition is seamless and almost instantaneous.
Okay, but how regular people that never had an NDE, how they can find their purpose, how they can find their mission easily?
I may have my beloved talk about that because she hasn't had an NDE.
No.
So yeah,
Well, I think that's a big question everybody wants to know. And a lot of people come to us actually now if they're going to do the healing work. And we do what we call shadow work and light work. We help them with their traumas, their grief recovery, addiction recovery. We help them to, this is our philosophy and what we've personally experienced. We help them love and have, just total compassion for all parts of themselves, because we have found, both of us, that was our core issue. I became a binge drinking workaholic who wanted to die. I had lost so many friends to suicide and addiction, and I thought I was just headed right down that path. I lost my purpose. But part of it was, society. We live in a society that's positive Pollyanna all the time, fake it till you make it, never let them see you sweat, put on a happy face all the time, right? And that's not human. And so we recognized, once we healed our shadows, then we had more love for ourselves, then we had more sense of purpose. Then we got out of bed every day excited about life and wanting to find our passion. We call our work now our purpose and our passion. But it had to start with going deep inside and doing the inner child healing and the grief recovery and all of that kind of stuff. So a lot of people think, no, I got to go take another course, or I got to go, I don't know, get another degree, or I got to do more. But it was really more about surrendering to that healing process that allowed us to get into our hearts, and really balance the feminine and the masculine energies inside of us. And then once we felt more of that childlike innocence and happiness and bliss and joy, then you do everything with a sense of purpose, because you're really remembering who you truly are. But the only way is through. You got to go through the mucky muck and the shadow work in order to get to the other side, to be able to then transmute it. Like ours just so happened to be, the pain that we experienced, the trauma, the suffering. Once we got to the other side, we became healers. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to do that, but once you really remember who you are and get into your heart, then it's so much easier to reconnect with your purpose and actually be intentional about it.
Okay, that's a beautiful answer. Now, if people want to find more about your work, what you do, guys, about your seminars, about your teachings, how they can reach you, if you'd like to share the information.
Sure. Yeah. The easiest one is my website, and I'll give it to you, magdalenagrace.com. It directs to our link tree, our podcast. His Ghost Whisperer website is also on there. A lot of our special events and work is all listed on that. So magdalenagrace.com, and then you'll find all of our information.
yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you one question about the name of my show. What's your definition of freedom?
Oh, freedom. Freedom. For me, freedom is alignment to your truest self. Alignment to your truest self is my definition of freedom.
Yeah, I think yeah, for me too, it's similar. Freedom is about being your highest and best version of yourself, and being free to express it, free to be able to be seen, to be heard, to do whatever it is that you were brought on this earth here to do, and to live out loud.